Bruh. It's okay if you want to kick him out. It's all right. Yeah, it's okay.
I know.
Yeah, you can kick him out. Oh my gosh.
School board meeting will now come to order. Let us stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Yes, I move to add the finance report, fundraiser approvals, and enrollment numbers to the consent agenda.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
With the proper second, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried. Next, we have public announcement. All right. December the 20th, for release of students and staff, December the 23rd through January the 6th, winter breaks. School is closed. December the 23rd through January the 3rd. Middlesex County Public Schools are closed. January the 7th, school reopens. January the 13th will be the next regular school board meeting at 6:30 here at St. Clair Walker. Okay, next we have some recognitions.
And so a little bit different for this evening, we actually have a presentation. We have one of our own Middlesex High School teacher and coach, Clark Laster. He also happens to be the Urbana Oyster Festival Marine Science Legacy Program Coordinator. And he is here tonight to share, I think we have a video and some information about this program so that you all understand it goes way beyond Oyster Festival. And I think Kathy's Lockhart is doing it.
Joe Hyman and James Hatton will get here when they were at I don't know. They were at the sports complex. So, my name is Clark Laster. I am the program coordinator for the Urbana Oyster Festival Marine Science Legacy Program. And we really wanted to come here and tell you guys a little bit about the Marine Science Legacy Program. Some of the things that we do with Oyster Festival that aren't just the festival. You know, we always talk about our different core values of community, collaboration, creativity, and learning discovery. Is our mission statement at Middlesex County Public Schools, and it's something that we at the Oyster Festival also embrace. And if anyone has ideas of things that you all think that we should do with the kids outside of our school system, our goal is to get them out into the community, get their hands dirty, let them see other things that they can do. Joe Hyman, everybody, James Hatton. Thanks for coming, guys. Appreciate it. I didn't start without you. Come on up here. Joe Hyman is the chairman, and James Hatton is also the chairman of the Oyster Festival Committee. And we just want you all to know that we do a lot within the community, within the school. I know when I first started with the Marine Legacy program, it was mostly Education Day, and we've really blossomed that out into numerous other things I'm going to show you in the video, but some of them include going to Port Isabel with the Gifted program. We've done water quality testing with Mike Carey and in his class. We've made an aquarium for Mike Carey's class so that he can bring marine science into his classroom himself. So while I am a teacher and a coach at Middlesex High School, I am also a firm believer in getting these kids active and into our community. So without further ado, I'm going to get Steve Dunkel to play this amazing video I put together for you. So go ahead, Steve. Take it away. Some of the groups that I would be remiss if I did not tell you who we worked with. We work with the Friends of the Rappahannock. We do a lot of kayaking with the Friends of the Rappahannock. We work with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. What else do we work with, Joe? Those are the two really big ones. Tidewater Oyster Growers come in to do programs inside of the school. But Robin Diddlake with the Chesapeake, with the Friends of the Rappahannock have been a real godsend for us to work with. One of the fun things for me is that a lot of times I get to go on these trips. Actually, Anna got to go on a couple of the trips too. And we've really had a good time. But if you guys you hear of anybody that have ideas of what we can do out, specifically on the water here in Middlesex, we have a really unique area, and I think the kids need to get on it more and appreciate where they are even more than they already do. So, do you all have any questions for us? Because I don't have the answer. I know somebody that will at least pretend like he does. So, that's Joe, by the way.
Have the kids ever taken a trip to Tangier?
We did. That's a really good question. We actually took the 7th and 8th grade class to Tangier this year. It was my first time I ever went. 6th grade. Yep, got it. All right. Yeah, I guess that's true because Sawyer was on the trip. Yes, we did do Tangier this year. That was a very unique. I'd never been there in my whole life, and met the mayor And it was very interesting. One of the interesting things is that diesel at Tangier is less expensive than it is in Reedville, but unleaded gas is significantly more expensive in Tangier than it is in Reedville. So they all had different things that they had to fill out. That was one of the things. They had to talk about the different prices of things that they were there for. So I did get my crab cake sandwich. Have you had your crab cake sandwich in
Yes, I
Tangier?
have. I've been over there. Our church took a trip over there, and it was some of the best food I've ever eaten.
Yeah, it was funny. I went into the restaurant dry, and I walked out of the restaurant, and I was in like, what, 6 inches of water? It was crazy. I was like, what happened here? So we couldn't even get around the island because it was King's Tide, and so we couldn't get around. So yes, we have done it. We'd like to do more of that. We'd like to get kids out more. I mean, the only disadvantage of that field trip is I don't think we got back to school until like 5 o'clock. And so there's a commitment on both the teacher and the parents' part to make sure that we can get them to and from, because I think they leave at like 10 o'clock in the morning or something, and they don't get back until like 4:30, going on our whopping like 10 horsepower back and forth. But yes, we did do that this year. So they did Tangier this year, and they did Port Isabel. And Port Isabel is right across from there, and the Chesapeake Bay Foundation worked with the 7th and 8th grade classes. And I've never seen kids get muddier than I saw them at Port Isabel. You got anything?
I do.
Oh, yeah, please come. Yeah, sorry, I would love to.
No, my role here is as a member of the Oyster Festival Foundation Board, and I just want you all to know that the board is very much behind and enthusiastic about the Marine Science Legacy Program. And we're grateful for the support. Clark Lasser is doing a great job, and we appreciate the support he gets from Mrs. Fleet in the high school. And we also, there's other teachers, Macy McNamee, Jennifer Marr, and other teachers who really take advantage and also help us to execute this. But we very much view it as a partnership. So this program, I think, can advance the curriculum goals of the schools, but it's very much directed by what the teachers see as valuable experiences for the kids. So I know you have a full agenda, and but we're open to any questions or any further information that you want anytime. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yay.
Educational highlights?
We have Mrs. Fleet to introduce our choir this evening.
Good evening, everybody. I would like to present our MHS choir and Ms. South, their director, and they are going to perform a holiday song for y'all.
Oh,
Thank you to the parents. Thank you so very much for having the kids here.
Thank you for having us.
Very welcome.
Taylor Mastro, my daughter. She's a senior this year. She's changed. She'll be probably going to college. I just don't know what she wants to do. Me, I'm a nurse. So I thank you. I didn't know if I was allowed to come in here as a listener or not. I'll be here Wednesday, of course. And I support you all. Music is my project of life. So I thank you in the bottom of my heart. And Miss Sweet, and all your teachers too, and everybody else who put forward. Thank you for believing, okay? That's why I walked up here, so I could speak. Because from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Thank you so much. Very welcome.
You're very welcome.
You have a blessed Christmas.
You have a wonderful, all of you, blessed New Year's and Christmas.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have public comment. Floor is now open.
Dawn Moore of Urbana.
I give my time, thank you.
That's all.
Public comment is now closed. Next, we have a board member committee report.
Me first? I serve on the Middlesex Foundation. We met last month, we'll meet again this week. The foundation is continuing to work with Bay Aging to secure funding for low-income housing complex. We've raised about 2.9 million so far, still a lot more to go. They have new and approved plans for the building complex, so things are moving slowly, but they're moving.
Dr. Bunny?
First, the school construction committee that you serve on as well, Mr. Chair, has met, and we're moving into another phase, I believe. Don't forget, January 22nd, I hope that all of us can be there in a joint work session with the supervisors. More to follow. Went to the VSBA conference and learned some things. There was a joint CBGS board meeting on the 19th of November. But probably my favorite meeting since I last saw each of you was the kindergarten Friendsgiving. And if they have it again, and I certainly hope that MES does, each of you should make a point to be there. It was a wonderful occasion. I happened to sit across from two young ladies. Apparently, they had been together in a classroom at the beginning of the year, and then one of them got moved, and so this was a reunion for them. And they had a wonderful time catching up with each other. It really was a successful event. I think lots of friends were made, and I am proud to say that I am one of them. So come to the Friendsgiving next year because you'll enjoy it.
And we were all there at the board supervisors meeting. We will be there on the next meeting is the 22nd of January. Okay? And I looked at her, and I had it all planned, I had it all. And it never made it over there.
Okay, well, all of our fall sports have concluded at the high school this year, ending with football being district champions, which is a big deal because that's never happened in the 4 years that I've been at Middlesex. Volleyball was also district champions. They were region runner-up, and they made it to state quarterfinals, which is second to state finals, and that's the farthest that I believe we've ever made it. Cameron Lambert, who is a senior, he placed 7th in state, and then the boys team placed 4th overall. And then shortly after, all of the winter sports have started with varsity boys basketball, and then both girls JV and varsity all have games tonight. Wrestling had their first meet in Caroline County on Saturday, and they placed 5th as a team. And then finally, something that's a little non-sports related, the National Honor Society is starting student tutoring in the spring for 9th and 10th graders that need help. And that's all I have.
Very cool.
Good job.
Thank you.
I haven't missed anyone else, right? All right. Next we have some action items. We have none. Praise the Lord. So now we have some information items.
Just me.
No, Dr. Bishop.
That's right. I'm just going to give a brief report on student attendance, including those as identified as chronically absent, and just providing a comparison of the trends this year as compared to previous years. Remember, our goal is to have to reduce the number of chronically absent students. That is students who miss more than 10% of a school year. These data are going to be reflected in the school performance and support framework that Dr. Seitz will go over later on this evening. That's part of the categories within that framework. A missed school day is a lost opportunity for students to learn. Research demonstrates that students who are frequently absent score lower on standardized tests and have lower grades. We want our students at school. I'll speak to the trends. Last year, 20% of our students were considered chronically absent, missing 10% or more days, while 44% of our students are clear. They're greater than 95% attendance rate. So you have the chronically absent and the ones that are just no attendance issues, and there's other categories in between. This year we're trending at 14% of our students who are chronically absent, and 58% have no attendance issues. We are improving on both ends. We're shrinking the chronically absent. We're growing those students who are no attendance issues. Again, this is a trend. We're still working hard to make sure these students continue to come to school all the way through at the end of the year, but those trends look good. The monthly attendance rates also show positivity. So November we had for instance, November we had an attendance rate of 93.3%. Of our students attended school daily, and the previous years it was 92.6. So we're increasing there. The grade level with the most students with no attendance issues is grades 3 and 4, and they have 64% with no attendance issues. The grade with the most chronically absent students is kindergarten, which is 18%, and that reflects the trend of the state. 18% of the students missing more than 10% of the school days. We are working hard, and the administrators and teachers are coming together along with central office. We're tracking attendance, making phone calls, attendance meetings for those students who are chronically absent, involving the school counselor and the social worker. The high school students are rewarded with incentives by monthly drawing if they have good attendance. At the middle school, they recognize students with perfect attendance or those who improved from last year through a drawing. Students were also rewarded for quarter one for perfect attendance. At the elementary school, they provided health and hygiene lessons for our younger students, and also have an incentive program called Booked for Success Perfect Attendance Giveaway. Through incentives, parent communication, lessons on hygiene, and working with our families, we're trying to support their attendance and trying to ensure that they come to school every day. Any questions?
How are we going as far as, are we having any outbreaks of any illnesses, or have we been doing fairly good so far this year?
At the elementary school, we're having some issues. That's why the hygiene lessons come in. But I don't know if that will take care of everything, but we're trying in that regard. We do have some.
It's, what do you want? I mean, you can play Russian roulette and make pneumonia, stomach bug, all the time.
Don't lick
And
anybody.
little people trouble.
My grandson has had
somewhat of a larger overview. It's a lot of detailed information, and I'll be happy to answer questions as I go along or at the end, but it's more of a large overview because there's a lot of weeds to get into with it. I'll just call it weeds. Are you coming to me? Sorry, Steve.
This mic, this one's been muted.
This is me.
Yeah.
Okay, we're assuming we're not muted anymore. All right, so what I've got here on the first screen is what our current system of the school quality indicator looks like. And this is what we've been using as a report for the past several years now. This example here is currently from our Middlesex High School. I'm just gonna go over one school's example, not to show their current data, but to show you just how it's going to compare to what the new system will look like. And so this, again, is for Middlesex High School, and this is based on the SOL assessments that were administered during last school year. So you can see that in academic achievement area, we look at English, mathematics, and science. And then in the achievement gaps, and I'll go into a little bit about what that means, there's a section on that, and then student engagement outcomes. This area will change and look much differently as we get into the new performance indicators. And so this chart just shows you specifically what I mentioned about achievement gaps. We have always been measuring and reporting on the federal achievement gap groups. You'll see that if there are no students in a category, then there's obviously no report. And then if there are less than 15 students in a category, it's reported as too small, and that is specifically because reporting in groups that are that small could potentially allow people to identify students. And so if you can see, for example, in this area, for multiple races in the area of English, there were below 15 students, and so the data is not reported out publicly. And so that's what the current system looks like. Going into this new system, the State Board of Education began discussing these changes to the accreditation system probably about 2 years ago, even though the information that I'm sharing tonight has just started to come to us in the past few months. And at the time, the goal was to separate out the components of the standards of accreditation separate from accountability. And so you'll see on the right here, accreditation focuses on statutory obligations and operational compliance, like staffing and drills and things like that. The Department of Education very much wanted accountability to be reported differently, and this is why we've come to the School Performance and Support Framework. That fulfills the federal requirements for the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA is what we like to call it. And schools will receive an overall performance score that ranks them into one of 4 categories. And I'll review with you at the end what those categories look like. The overall scores derive from weighted indexes that are slightly different at the elementary, middle, and high school, and I'll review that information with you. Elementary and middle include indexes on mastery, growth, and readiness. And at the high school, they're measured on mastery, readiness, and graduation because there is no growth measurement at the high school level. And so this page shows you how those indexes are weighted at each of the schools. You can see that the mastery measure changes and slowly decreases as you move from elementary to the high school. It's everything always equals 100%. You'll see that mastery goes down, and then you also see that the readiness category increases as you move from the elementary level into the high school level. And then, of course, high school doesn't have growth, and that's where the graduation measure comes in. And I'm going to go through each of the school levels to show you what those indexes entail. So if we're looking at the elementary level, where mastery is comprised, it will make up 65% of that total score. It includes SOL assessments in reading and mathematics in grades 3 through 5, and also science in grade 5. It also includes VAP scores, and VAP is the Virginia Alternate Assessment Program, and that's designed to evaluate the performance of students with significant cognitive disabilities. And so points will be assigned based on scores, and there's 4 score bands for SOLs. Those score bands stay the same, but they're below basic, basic, proficient, or advanced, and depending on where a student's score falls in that, is how points will be assigned that go towards the school and then the overall performance score. And lastly, the English learner progress, which is measured on the Access for L's 2.0. That's a federal measure, and it's required to be measured at the federal level, and it's included in the performance framework. In the area of growth, which will account for 25% at the elementary school, we'll be using Virginia's visualization and analytics solution, which we affectionately call VIVAS. It is a web-based tool. It's available to all Virginia K-12 divisions. It measures student academic growth over time based on SOL testing data. It produces diagnostic reports for student groups. It gives us student projections to help improve student achievement and classroom instruction. We look at that data all year long because it's tailored specifically to individual students. And the data is first entered when they take their first SOL assessment in the 3rd grade, and then it's followed all the way through the high school level. And so after the assessments are completed in the spring, we will receive a report that provides data on whether students made the expected growth, and it is individualized for a particular student. Even though the assessments will be administered in the spring, we don't expect those reports to be available to us until the fall. But that goes into this 25% growth area that we're talking about at the elementary level. And points are assigned for that also, anywhere from 0 to 1.25, depending on where the student falls and that expected growth that VIVAS has calculated for them. And then the 3rd category is readiness at the elementary school. It's 10%, which is the lowest category for the elementary. Readiness is lowest at the elementary level, and you'll see how that changes as we move through all 3 of the schools. It measures chronic absenteeism, which, as Dr. Bishop shared, we have been monitoring and working on, and we're certainly seeing improvements in that now. In addition to that, there will be a measure for the 5 C's performance task, but this task has not yet been defined or developed by the Department of Education, and so it will not be measured this year. For this year, chronic absenteeism will count for the full 10% of readiness at the state level. And then once the performance tasks are determined and designed and presented to us, the expectation is that in the following year's data, we will be administering those, and that will be included. For the middle school level, you'll see that mastery now counts for 60% instead of 65%. It is based on the same indicators as the elementary school. The weighting has simply changed. Growth is also based on the same indicators as the elementary school, but now the growth weight is reduced from 25 to 20% because readiness is increasing to 20%. And so in that area, again, we're also looking at chronic absenteeism. The career performance task will also be at the middle school level, and then additionally added is advanced coursework. And the Department of Education defines advanced coursework as high school end-of-course classes. For example, Algebra 1, which is a high school level course, and there's an end-of-course assessment associated with it. For this year, the measure will only be in the area of mathematics for advanced courseworks, and that's based on students who should be enrolled in a high school level end-of-course test, and then the students that pass. And this year, the same as at the elementary level, the performance task has not been defined and will not be included in that percentage. Instead, readiness will be equally split between chronic absenteeism and advanced coursework. When we move to the high school level, mastery, based on the same indicators as elementary and middle, but the weighting now is at 50%. Another point that's different for end-of-course assessments is that there is no below basic score or below basic band. And so the points that are awarded on these assessments fall into either advanced, proficient, or does not meet category. And so now there's 3 bands of scores. Points are assigned for those also, and that's anywhere from a 0.75 to a 1.25. The points are not assigned to the students, the points are assigned to the school in determining that performance
category there. I'd also like to add that the requirements that are in the performance framework look a little bit different than graduation requirements also. Another important piece to this data, which makes it very different for the high school, is that the scores will be based on the graduating cohort of students, not on the current year SOL data. So the data that are used to measure mastery at Middlesex High School for this year will be based on the students who are graduating in 2025, not the students who test in 2025. It'll all be based on their testing since they started their 9th grade year in the fall of 2021. So that looks very different for the high school and what those measures are. When typically we're given our SOLs in the spring, some are given in March if it's the writing, but the remainder are given in May. And we know right then what that data looks like for the high school. This now we're tracking across a cohort of 4 years. There is no growth data to measure at the high school, and so that's where graduation is factored in. The graduation that counts for 15% of that score is based on the federal graduation rate, and that is based on a cohort of students who graduate within 4 years once they enter the 9th grade. The readiness category, chronic absenteeism, is also measured at the high school level. The former CCCRI, which we have been working very hard to get a level 1 index in that, which is the College Career and Civic Readiness Index, and we just got to green, and it is now being replaced with the Ready for Life 3E framework, and I'll just highlight that also on the next slide. Additionally added is the 6-year extended year graduation rate with applied studies. This was something that superintendents pushed for, and it was added into the readiness category so that we are still allowed to get some credit for students who are not earning the traditional standard or advanced diploma, and or they have to extend past their 4-year cohort. And so the next slide, I'm just going to give you an overview of Ready for Life 3E. The 3Es are enrollment, employment, and enlistment. For enrollment completion, overall for us, it'll be mainly dual enrollment, and there's a certain number of courses that have to be passed and grades that have to be earned, again, to earn points. And you'll see on here that points go anywhere from a 0.5 to a 1.25, depending on where a student falls. In the employment category, the focus is on CTE completers and industry credentials in high-demand, high-wage fields, and in work-based learning. This is the one category that the Virginia Department of Education still has a lot to do to finalize and define, and technically the State Board of Education has not approved any of the work-based learning as of yet. But it is something that we were measuring and providing experiences for students in the CCCRI, so we're having to make some switches there. The difficult part is to make some switches when the Department of Ed has not fully defined what that needs to look like. And then lastly, the third E is enlistment, and that is scores on the ASVAB. So you will see and hear that we will start to be administering that to full grade levels of students, where in the past it's just been provided for students who would like to have that option. And so this, whoops, I went too far on here. This next page is just a sample school. It's a real school at the Department of Education. It's not one of ours, though. But it's a sample school that gives you all the data points on what this new performance category will look like and the data that will be presented publicly. You can see, of course, so in the mastery area where it breaks down both the reading and the math and the science, those are the SOL assessments, and then the English language progress. And in the growth category for reading and mathematics, and that's how they've performed on that SOL, and it's based on that VIVAS data on whether they've met expected growth, or they could also exceed the expected growth, and that's when we would earn a 1.25. And then in the readiness category, and for this school, being a middle school, it's in chronic absenteeism and advanced coursework, with the expectation that that changes after next year once they've been able to define what those performance categories look like. I will share that the percentages will not look the same across the state. The demographics of student testing population will influence those percentages, because if you remember in the very beginning when I showed you if there were less than 15 students in any category, then that's not reported. And so we will fall into categories like that with our EL population and also with our advanced coursework at the middle school, where those numbers will be redistributed to different places in a chart. And so then all of these numbers come together. You'll see that there's a performance category total in the upper left-hand corner. And then that goes into the new performance categories for this framework, ranging from distinguished to needs intensive support. The VDOE is still updating and finalizing some of the business rules associated with these categories. The Virginia Board of Education still has to vote on items in some categories, and some of the data that has been reported to us still does not include all of the factors, such as growth in some areas. And the board did leave themselves some flexibility to update these categories once data comes in for this first round of data that will be used for the actual reports. As I've shared in past meetings also, we have new standards in both mathematics and reading this year, which means new assessments for those students. And so Dr. Bishop and I have been in multiple meetings, I don't even know how many, since September when this was first released. The information I've just presented, it continues to be updated and was updated from the very first meeting I sat in. Within a matter of days, they were changing some of these rules. I do now serve on the School Performance and Support Framework Advisory Group, working with and providing feedback to the Office of Accountability. And so I'll get to preview some of the items that go out or before they go out for training and provide some feedback to that office, which the nice thing is I get a little bit of inside information on that also, which I like to help us use. So, like I said, that is a very broad overview. There's a lot more we see it into, but as they still continue to update some of these things, I didn't want to go too far into them and then turn around at another meeting and say that they've been changed. We meet monthly with our principals and even more frequently if necessary, so we keep them updated. We're keeping our curriculum and instruction team updated. Some of this information, like I shared, is still in the works there, and we're still trying to get the final pieces of it to help form some of that direction, especially when it comes to the work-based learning and what's required there for high-wage, high-demand professions when they have not been able to tell us exactly what that does look like. So with all of that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you do have.
When do you expect using our data into any of these formulas? Would that be testing that we're doing in the fall?
Well, in the spring.
Okay.
And
in
so
the
this
spring.
year's data, all of the testing that starts in the fall and then goes into the spring, all of that data will go into now this new framework. It's been a little bit like, you know how you talk about you're building the plane as you're flying it?
Yeah.
Sometimes I felt like we're just in the air flapping our arms looking for parts to put a plane together. So, yeah.
So measuring growth, is that fall to spring SOLs? Is that how that's?
It is the previous year's SOL to the current year's SOL. And that's changed a little bit for us because currently, especially in third grade, there's some growth assessments that were given in the beginning of the year. And then you use the SOL assessment at the end of the year. And there were, and I'm not sure what the calculations were at the state level, we were able to look at that and we could look at a score and know what band they fell in. This is different in that it's individual for the student from one SOL year to another SOL year.
So there will be some students that you won't be able to measure growth. For example, if a student comes in from another state, that would not give you the SOLs from
That's
one
correct.
year to the
They
next.
have, their data has to be in VIVAS and it's SOL, Virginia SOL data.
I've got lots of questions, but I'll save some of them. But I do have one other one. As far as Ready for Life, do we know yet how that data is going to be collected? For example, it says if you earn an associate's degree, you get points for that. How are we going to measure that? Or is that the state that's going to measure that?
So the state will measure it, but if it's that they're earning an associate's degree while they are in high school. And
So it's dual enrollment.
Yes, so if we've got any students doing that, then we're tracking that also. And then, of course, so it's dual enrollment, it's AP, it's baccalaureate, all IB, but we offer dual enrollment because that actually is where our students are most successful in the transfer to the college level. So that'll be our primary focus there is dual enrollment.
Okay, stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
All right, I had a question on part of the Ready for Life as far as the enlistment goes.
Yes,
So are you, everybody gonna be taking the ASVAB from now on? to
that's
get
what we're
those
looking at
points?
now, yeah, and at
Okay.
least one grade level that everyone will take it.
Okay, so, cause I was gonna say, cause is that gonna be contingent on them enlisting to get those points?
No, they do not have to enlist, it's
Okay.
only the score on the ASVAB.
All right.
Which we can administer at the school, they don't have to go to the recruiter's office to do that.
Mhm.
Okay, I kind of think it would, if this was more of a complete,
It would have been more helpful.
yes,
Yes.
yes. But I guess we'll continue to work with it and do what we have to do.
That's what we'll do.
Okay.
Yep, that's what we'll do.
Next, we have superintendent's report, Dr. Sykes.
So just a few more updates. I'd shared before that we have a team that's working on a generative AI training. And so our group was in Fredericksburg working on that still. And where we're at now is we're working on probably a slight policy update to include regulations. And the regulations would be much longer on the use of artificial intelligence by both our staff and students. And so that would be coming to you later in the spring, likely, when we've got that finalized. As for budget, Dr. Bishop and Mrs. Murray and I have begun our meetings with our principals and our directors as we go through and assess what the budget needs are for the upcoming year. And that is anticipation of the governor's amendments to be released next week. And Ms. Murray will work on that as soon as we have calc tools from the Department of Education. And of course, you know, once we hit the new year, it'll be all of those budget meetings that we have. We're also working on the 25-26 school calendar. I'll bring you a first draft in January. Our principals will start to review that at our meeting tomorrow, and we'll send a survey out just like last year, right after we come back from the break. Superintendent's advisory team and committee will look at that, and then the plan is in February to come to you with a calendar to be approved for the next school year. And those are all of the updates I have.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there any other reports on drivers who are not stopping for school buses?
So we've put something out on our social media accounts on that. And when Mr. Harris and I met last, we talked about going back to get some more data from our drivers to see if we could, if it was just some routes in some buses. I think I had shared with one or two of you maybe, we looked into, and we had already, once we had a public comment at last month's meeting, we had already started to look into that. The original quote we got for that was about $120,000 to outfit our buses for cameras that capture license plates and report them to the sheriff's department. We did start to look at some less expensive items. It just requires more work on our end, such as manually pulling. The bus driver would have to notify the director of operations that a car ran it. It's someone going and pulling the hard drive and reviewing that information, getting a license plate. And so the human resource side of it became larger, so we're trying to find if there's something in the middle, considering grants. So we are starting with trying to start more of an education campaign of please stop when the bus has its lights on. Just stop, unless there's median in between you. Don't pass the bus. We recognize that distracted driving impacts lots of areas, but we especially don't want it to impact our buses. So we're trying to provide some education there, look into grants, and see if there are some routes that need it more quickly than other routes.
Okay, so you'd be looking at outfitting those buses who it's directly affecting right now that are on those main routes?
If we have to phase it, that's what we would look at, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. Any more questions? Okay.
Okay.
All right. Do we have any old business? Any new business? Okay. We will now go into closed meeting.
Okay, and pursuant to the Code of Virginia, the board will go into closed session to discuss personnel matters, student matters, and legal matters. May I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. We're now in closed.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly second, all in favor?
Aye.
In pursuant to the Code of Virginia, the board has discussed personnel matters, student matters, and legal matters during closed sessions. Matters discussed in closed sessions have been added to the consent agenda and other parts of the agenda as action items, action and information items. Members of the board, please certify that only lawful matters were discussed in closed session. Please respond by roll call.
Dr. Burnett,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Ms. McMurtry,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Robbins.
Okay. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Oh, we are now adjourned.
And you did.